Hello, good people. Welcome to another episode of Leadership Unfiltered, where we break down today's headlines to talk about what it means for you, your leadership, and how to lead in this chaotic world in your workplace. Now, today we're going to talk about Elon Musk, we're going to talk about DOGE, and we're going to talk about efficiency, and we're definitely going to talk about toxic workplace culture and that how this myth of efficiency to build a better organization can actually drive you to a place of getting into a toxic workplace culture. So let me jump right into it because I really want to give you some meat and potatoes for this episode. Now, first and foremost, I want to pull the curtain back on something. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to just say it like I feel it. I want to keep it real around something. And that efficiency does not equal leadership. See, there's this myth in business and in organizations that if I'm a leader that makes things more efficient, then that makes me a great leader. Absolutely not. Because efficiency is not leadership. Efficiency is a metric. It's a metric that should be measured. It's a metric that every organization wants. It's a metric that every organization needs. But when you have this pressure to only drive efficiency without any context of how it might be impacting your people, how it might be impacting your operations, how it might be impacting what you're trying to deliver in the world, then you can focus on efficiency, but at the same time, it can implode your organization. As a matter of fact, I would like to say that without good innovation attached to efficiency, you won't get to the outcomes that you deserve. And that happens in every organization. And I'm telling you right now, it's happening in the United States government. And I think it's a lesson that all of us can learn. So let's break down what's going on. Donald Trump has appointed Elon Musk as a special appointee. Means he has somewhat of 130 days to come into government to do a particular task or particular job. And in this case, Donald Trump has asked Elon Musk to take on the task of making the government more efficient. So they created an organization called the Department of Government Efficiency. It's spelled DOGE. People refer to it as DOGE. Now, DOGE is not really a cabinet organization or a real government entity because the Congress has the power to create entities and put them in effect and give them a budget. But Congress did not do that with DOGE, nor did they give them a budget. So there is some question around the legality if DOGE should even exist. But we're not going to unpack that today. We're just going to assume what is reality right now. And that is the Department of Government Efficiency has been eliminating jobs, been eliminating agencies, reducing the size of government, and putting out a lot of data and memes to say that they're saving taxpayers' dollars. Now, what I want you to understand is how this is happening. Because if you understand how it is happening, you might prevent it from happening in your organization. And the reason why I say prevent it, I'm telling you, you're going to need to prevent it. Because if you don't do right sizing the right way, you're going to create a toxic culture full of confusion, full of dismay, reducing morale, reducing productivity, reducing trust, and that is going to kill your workplace. And as a leader, that's the last thing you want to do. You might need to make budget cuts. You might need to do some layoffs, but you should be able to do all of those things without destroying your culture at the same time. But that is not the case right now with Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency. So let me lay out for you what's happening right now. Elon Musk has come into government with a team of loyal employees to him. Now, when I mean loyal employees to him, these are a group of 25-year-old engineers. They're technology engineers who have been brought into the government that Elon Musk has empowered for them to review all aspects of data, personnel files, corporate information, government information, vendors, contractors, you name it. These group of 25, and I don't know how many it is. Maybe it's 8, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 5. I don't know. But I know they're all around 25 years old. So they're literally 3 or 4 years out of undergraduate school who've been brought into the federal government to make evaluations of who needs to stay, who needs to go, what agency needs to exist, what agency doesn't need to exist, what operations need to continue, and what operations need to cease. But these 25-year-olds were directly hired by Elon Musk. They work for him. They're loyal to him. Now, what does that say to me? That says to me, Elon Musk has a group of yes men around him. Yes men are not what any leader needs around them, because they become so loyal to you that they disregard and disrespect the loyalty that they need to have to the organization. See, no one should be bigger than their organization. No leader should be bigger than the organization. The organization that does any good in this world should have a place and a prominence that is larger than any one leader that makes it up. But in the case of DOGE, Elon Musk has a team of young leaders, many of them inexperienced, who are loyal to him and will do exactly as he says do, without question, with complete directives and no regard for whether these decisions make sense, whether they're right or wrong, whether they're hurtful or helpful. Now, can you imagine working in an organization on a team where your boss is expecting total loyalty from you? They haven't done anything to earn that loyalty, or maybe they did do something to learn that loyalty, but they want you to disregard common sense, the facts, the data that's in front of you, to do exactly as they told you to do, to follow their directives. Now, that might work in the military when you're dealing with war, but in business, in life, in the nonprofit sector, and even in the government, that is not a best practice for anybody. So what you don't want is people to be totally loyal to you. And this group of Elon loyalists are totally loyal to him, and they're making decisions that are only focused on the budget. And that's the biggest part of the mistake, that they're so focused on the efficiency of the budget, they forgot the most important aspect of the organization, and that is the people. See, people matter more than anything else, because at the end of the day, you're going to still need these people to carry out the mission of the work of the organization. So it doesn't matter if you're going from 100,000 employees to 25,000 employees, you still need 25,000 people to do the job. So if you're going from 3 million people to cut it down to 1.5 million, the job of those 1.5 million people who are now gone still has to get done by someone in some way, at least a large part of it. So when you don't do this the right way, you have the potential to create what I call a toxic workplace culture. See, a toxic workplace culture exhibits all kinds of symptoms and signs. Number one, the loyalty, and when I say loyalty, I'm really talking about the employee engagement in an organization decreases. Now, I've shown you some research in the past that shows you that disengagement in the American workplace costs employers about $777 billion a year. $777 billion a year when employees mentally check out. Now, when I say mentally check out, here's what I want you to understand. That no employee comes to work intentionally to mentally check out. But the environment that gets created in the workplace can create that kind of environment where they want to check out. It might start with a little bit of stress. But if you allow stress to become fearfulness about doing my job or doing what I was hired to do, or even distrust about what I'm doing, or anger and resentment, it's easy for employees to check out. And when I mean check out, it doesn't mean they're going to quit. It means they're going to mentally quit long before they physically quit. And if they mentally quit, then you're not getting the best out of them. You're not getting what you need them to do to be successful. So in the circumstance of what's going on right now in the federal government, I'm telling you firsthand accounts from employees that I talk to who are literally disengaged. Some of them are angry and bitter about what's happened. Some of them are very resentful. Some of them feel broken because you have someone who's 25 years old, who's never worked in government, who doesn't know you, doesn't know your agency, doesn't know anything that you do, but all of a sudden they come into your office and they say to you, you got 5 minutes to justify to me why you deserve to keep your job. Now, can you imagine that? Working in an organization where a person who's been newly put in a position of leadership calls you into their office and tells you, you have 5 minutes to justify to me why you deserve to keep your job and why it exists. Now, here's what's wrong with that. Number one, it is really hard for any employee in 5 minutes to justify the value that they bring to an organization. See, your job is made up of tasks and duties that you have to complete over a year. And in a year's time, you can be evaluated in a normal employee evaluation on what you brought to the table and what you've been able to execute. But in 5 minutes, for someone who doesn't have any background, insight, or understanding of what you do, it's really hard in 5 minutes to give them an answer that will satisfy them. Now, here's what I'm telling you has happened in certain circumstances inside of federal agencies. That literally, that question was posed to an employee. You have 5 minutes to tell me why you deserve your job. And that employee began to explain their work, what they do, and why it matters. And within 2 minutes of them explaining, a 25-year-old across the table says, I've heard enough. Your job is not necessary, efficient. You're out of here. Now, could you imagine that? That is a symptom and a sign of a toxic workplace culture where employees don't feel valued, they don't feel listened to, they're not heard, they're not respected, and most importantly, they have been dismissed without any fair evaluation of what they bring to the table. That's a sign of toxic workplace culture. Another sign of toxic workplace culture is what I call emotional isolation, where people just stop talking about what they're doing at work. They don't engage deeply. You find a level of disunity and disloyalty that happens inside of the organization because they don't feel valued, respected, and included. These are signs of a toxic workplace culture. Now, here's what I want you to know, that my job as a speaker, as a leadership consultant, as a strategist, is to help organizations avoid creating a toxic workplace culture, particularly in an environment where you have to be more efficient, that where you have to do more with less. But I want to lay out for you what's happening right now in the federal government is not leading to efficiency or effectiveness. It is leading to calamity. It is going to lead to tragedies, unmitigated tragedies that most of us don't understand at this point. So what I want to help you to do is to understand the 5 signs that I see right now that's happening with Elon Musk, with DOGE, and what's happening in the federal workforce that could be signs of creating a toxic workplace culture. So let's jump right into it. Now, the first sign that I want to lay out for you is when you have an organization where people are working for unqualified and inexperienced leaders. That's a sign of a toxic workplace culture. So let me break it down like this. Again, 25 years old. I've been 25 before. I'm certain that you have been 25 before at some point in time in your life. Now, I want you to think about what you know now about leadership, what you know about organizational management, what you know about taking care of the teams that you lead to get the most out of them. Did you know that at 25 years old? You might thought you knew it, but you had to have some life experience as a professional, as a leader leading teams before you could understand that what you knew at 25 is not relevant to what you know at 45. So my context for you, when you have an organization where young leaders have been empowered to be in charge of large organizations without the prerequisite experience or the expertise or even the know-how about the agency, the institutional knowledge of the agency, that is a sign of a toxic workplace culture. Now, what am I saying about these? These engineers might be some of the smartest people on the planet. They might have gone to all of the right schools, Georgia Tech, MIT. They've gone to Harvard. They could go to Stanford. They can go to any school that they want to be a dynamic leader. But here's what I want you to know, that just because you have been in a leadership position and gone to a great school doesn't mean you know what it takes to lead. And I'm telling you right now, Having unqualified leaders, inexperienced leaders leading your team is definitely a sign of toxic workplace culture. As a matter of fact, I'll just frame it up to you like this. Inexperience doesn't lead to innovation, it leads to implosion. And that's what we see right now is that young leaders, the loyalists that belong to Elon Musk, have been put into a leadership position that they're not necessarily qualified for. They don't even understand the complex work of the National Security Administration, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Energy, the Centers for Disease Control. The people who work in these organizations that they're making decisions about have 25 years of experience, multiple degrees and training and certifications and on-the-job experience and knowledge capital of how the agency works. So rather than consulting with them, they're making blanket decisions to get rid of them. That's not a good approach to leadership. Now, here's a second sign of a toxic workplace culture, and that's the sign of micromanagement. Now, when I say micromanagement, here's what I want you to understand is happening. Just in the last few weeks, every federal employee was sent an email over the weekend that said to them, when you come in on Monday, I need you to send me a bulleted email of the 5 things you did this week to show me that you were productive at work. And every Monday, you have to send those 5 things to tell me what you did the previous week to show me that you were productive and you still deserve your job. Now, some people have said to me, Anton, why is that a bad thing? Everybody's got to show that they've done work. Everybody's got to show what they're productive about. Here's my answer to that. Is yes, employees have to show that they were productive and what they did was good to the organization. But nobody has to do that every week. If you did that every week, that's micromanagement. That's 52 weeks of the year that you're spending time having to report that, rather than a quarterly report or monthly report or maybe even an annual report. Those are basic frequencies. Could you imagine if we asked every Fortune 500 company to not to put out their quarterly proxy statement or their quarterly report around the business is going, and that they had to report every day what they were doing to make us more money as shareholders? That would be a paperwork nightmare. And I'm telling you right now, this is a paperwork nightmare. I've had government employees tell me, I sent my 5 bullet points in this morning, but I know nobody has read it because I put the same 5 bullet points every week because I want somebody to come and meet with me so I can really tell them about my job and what I'm doing. But I've sent it in 4 weeks and nobody has yet to respond to any of the emails that I sent. So you got employees spending 5 minutes of sending 5 bullet points to some domain or some email address that is not even being read. How efficient is that? You got 3 million federal workers who all are taking 5 minutes every Monday to send that to someone. I want you to do the math of how many hours are being wasted sending those reports. That's what I call micromanagement. Now, micromanagement doesn't engender support. It just creates disengagement. And we don't need disengagement in our workplaces. So, second sign that there's a toxic workplace culture. Now, here's the third sign that I want to lay out to you is that you have some very senior level employees who were brought into meetings, like I said earlier, and asked to justify their jobs. And when they didn't give a good enough answer inside of 5 minutes, they were dismissed. Their work was deemed meaningless and insignificant. And there's nothing more demoralizing for an employee to work long, hard hours in an organization and for someone to dismiss, demean your work and make you feel like it's meaningless. These are some very important employees who keep our national security safe. They do all kinds of great work. And everybody at work needs to feel like they're doing meaningful work. If you don't understand that every employee wants to come to work and do a good job and know that what they do matters, then maybe you don't deserve to lead. But I would say most leaders understand that everybody will do a better job when they feel like their job is making a difference, when they feel like their job is connecting to something bigger. And that's the third sign that there is a toxic workplace culture in the framework of DOGE and Elon Musk, is because they're making employees feel insignificant in what they're doing. Now, let me get to the fourth sign, and I want to make sure that you understand this one very clearly. and that is a sign around miscommunication. See, some of these employees don't check their emails over the weekend. So when the notice came out to send in your 5 bullet points on Monday morning, people didn't submit them because they didn't check their email over the weekend. They didn't see it until they got in on Monday. And then some people were told that you're being laid off and to not come back to work, only to be receiving an email the next day that says you should come back to work. And then some people were told don't respond to the 5 bullet points because we don't want to put that on national security information out there. And others were told they need to do it. So there was all this level of confusion and miscommunication in different communications. And so in your organization, if you're miscommunicating and telling one group of people one thing and another group of people another thing, you're creating a toxic environment. What good organizations do is they have town hall meetings where everybody can receive the same information. The cadence of the information is at a frequency that people can anticipate when the information is coming out. And that's not happening right now with DOGE and the government, and it's creating more problems than people can count. Now, here's the last sign of a toxic workplace culture, and that is people being told there's a fork in the road. See, when Elon Musk was at Tesla and at Twitter, he did a couple things that I don't think are very good management practices. He told employees, you're not working hard enough, you're not doing a good enough job, and if you're not willing to work 20 hours a day, maybe you shouldn't work here and I don't want you on the team. So today is a fork in the road. That if you respond to this email, then we'd be happy to lay you off with a severance package. But if you don't respond to it, I'm expecting you to show up to work tomorrow and to work as hard as I tell you to work without any question and be loyal to the organization. And that's effectively what they did in the federal government, is that they put a fork in the road and gave employees an ultimatum that if you don't respond to this, then basically you're resigning from your job. But if you do respond to this, then you're telling me that you want to work and you want to work the way that we need you to work. That has created a hostile, toxic workplace culture. And so we need to get to a place as leaders in organizations that we don't want to build toxic workplace cultures. We want to build world-class workplaces. And let me tell you right now that everybody is struggling. Every business and industry is dealing in this chaotic world. And that's why it's so important to be a good, strong, effective leader who's willing to do the right things the right way at the right time and not just focus on the myth of efficiency as being leadership, but to do what great leaders do. So let me give you, as I close, the 5 things that great leaders do. Number 1, they invest in their people. They develop their employees to make sure that they have the skills, the information, and the resources to do the job and give them the tools to do the job in the right way. The second thing they do is they create a psychologically safe workplace by building trust and respect and transparency in the decision-making process. Everybody knows that layoffs might come in one time or another, but are you creating a psychologically safe work environment for people to be able to stomach the change that might be coming? The third thing that great leaders do is that they lead with vision, that they create an inclusive vision where people feel like that they're a part of the change that's happening. And if they feel like that they're not a part of the change that's happening, they know where they can fit in or where they might be able to go to another organization. You have to learn how to lead with vision. Now, here's the fourth thing that great organizations do. They don't just measure efficiency, they measure impact. They measure outcomes. The goal of building a better organization should always be about outcomes and about impact. It's not about just measuring the efficiency. And number 5, what great leaders do inside of great organizations, they communicate at all costs. That communication is the key for people to have the information to make the best decisions possible. So you don't just want to communicate, you want to over-communicate. So I'm encouraging you right now to be that type of leader. And here's the last thing that great leaders do. Great leaders show the people that they lead that they care about them and the work that they do. Because if your team and the people that you lead know that you care about them and you care about the work that they do, then they understand that when you have to make tough decisions, they can respect and honor it because you know them and you know what work they do. And we're not getting that right now. What we're getting is signs of a toxic workplace culture. And I want you to prevent this from happening in your organization. So if this video resonated with you, I want you to share it. I want you to leave me a comment and let me know which of these signs you see showing up in your workplace, and more importantly, if you would like some help solving the problem. I want to thank you for paying attention to this episode of Leadership Unfiltered. I will catch you next time. Have a fantastic day.